You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today. But before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's beef farmers and ranchers, we want to remind you that beef can be part of a heart-healthy diet. To find heart-healthy beef recipes, go to oklabeef.org/recipes. Linked below. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Today we are up in Guthrie, maybe? Towards Guthrie? In the Guthrie region. Love driving up here. Love being reminded of the countryside. And every time I drive into the country, I just think I should have a house out here. And I need to convince my wife not to worry about how close she is to work, which is a constant on this podcast. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest today, Malia Smith, who is the Director of Community Relations and Advocacy at Pepper's Ranch. Malia, thanks so much for inviting us up here today.
Thanks, Mike. I'm happy to be on.
Yeah. When people meet you and they just say, Malia, what do you do? Like, what is Pepper's Ranch? What do you usually tell them?
Well, first of all, most people don't know what Pepper's Ranch is. And so they're often, once I describe it, they're just astonished by everything that we're able to accomplish. So what is Pepper's Ranch? So we are a foster care community in Guthrie. We have 240 acres, and inside of our community, we house 15 families. And these families get to be certified through the state of Oklahoma or an agency partner, and they come to the ranch with the heart to serve youth in care. And what we ask is that when they come to the ranch, that they will serve a minimum of 4 children in care here at the ranch. One of the beautiful things that the ranch is able to offer families when they commit to joining us is that we provide wraparound services. And so what does that look like? We often say that it's very hard for families to be able to take care of all their children's needs and not compromise one youth for another. And here at the ranch, they don't have to make those compromises. So we provide therapeutic programs for our youth. Therapeutic programs would be like dance therapy, art therapy, music therapy, equine programs, Mother's Day Out, fishing, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Taekwondo, things like that. They're all provided here at the ranch. We also do counseling and tutoring. Again, here provided at the ranch, and it's at no cost to our families.
Yeah. A lot of things going on.
A lot of things going on here.
So, with all that stuff going on, what's your connection to it? How do you grow up around here? Is this part of your family's business and land? Like, what's your kind of connection?
So my connection started with, prior to joining the ranch, I worked for the Department of Human Services, and I was a foster care worker, and then I moved up and ended up being in supervising different agency partners. My connection also is that I am a foster parent, so I have different lenses that I'm able to speak to, and so I got connected through the DHS side of things. And when I transitioned this way, it made it very easy to be able then to see what things are happening out here and be able to promote what's going on here at the ranch to different people who just walk up to me and say, what do you do? So it makes it very easy for me to get excited about telling people what Pepper's Ranch has to offer youth and families.
So did you grow up in the area? Or
I'm from Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I reside in Edmond. I've been there for probably 30 years now. So I have been familiarized with this area.
Yeah. And school, high school, college, like what's your kind of journey before, going to department to work for the state?
So I grew up in Oklahoma City, and then I moved to Norman to go to school for high school. And so I'm a Norman Tiger graduate. Go Tigers. And then I moved to UCO, came to Edmond to go to UCO, where I received my degree in communications and public relations. And then that's how I then transitioned into working for the Department of Human Services.
Yeah. So what was kind of like the plan when you're in university and you think, I'm going to go into public relations and do some of that? But did you have did you have kind of ties to foster care early on? Like how do you kind of develop this kind of love and passion, and how does it weave into your story?
Absolutely. So my story is my mother worked for the Department of Human Services for 32 years of her life. And so taking care of others has always been what I knew. I too was adopted, and so at 6 weeks old I was adopted. I've always known that I was adopted, and so I think those two things, being adopted, having my mother serve her community, is what drew me to be in this field. Going through school, I was a preschool teacher, and so children have always been very special to me. I think I have a natural knack for that. So I think it was an easy transition. I don't want to say I always thought I would end up at the Department of Human Services. I really kind of thought I would be a teacher or a nurse. But again, watching my mother perform and enjoy her job, I think that's kind of what the bridge was for me to transition.
Yeah, it makes sense now, right?
Yeah, right.
It's always interesting, I love doing this because you always find out kind of the deeper backstory, and there's so many little reasons, and obviously mum and you being adopted as well, and just all of these little things tie in. You're like, well, it's a no-brainer that you work here now, right?
Right.
But people that just meet you or see you, but to get an email from you, like, oh, I wonder what Malia's story is. So that's really neat.
Yeah.
So this place, the opportunity comes up for you to come work here.
It does. And so the executive director and myself, so it's Ashley Hahn is the executive director here. She and I had worked in the past together through the Department of Human Services, and the opportunity came, and she, as she would tell you, she poached me, and she said, hey, I've got this opportunity. Would you be interested in joining the team? And I said, I think I'm ready for a change. And so I trusted her leadership, and so here I am. And it's been a really nice journey.
How does the kind of like the outdoors and the ranching side of things kind of weave into your story as well? Is that something you were familiar with growing up?
No. So I did not grow up on a ranch. I grew up in the city. I've always enjoyed being outdoors. But no, fishing, hiking, things like that. I've always enjoyed that, but I've never had the experience to be on a ranch. And to be clear, I am not a ranch hand. I don't know how to do any of those things. I will go outside. If you want me to mow a yard, I can help you with that. But if it's anything about our equine program, I will come and feed them some carrots and some alfalfa cubes. I'm really good at that.
Yeah, me and you could do the same task because I'm not, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I would not, yeah.
But I
teach me and I'll learn.
Exactly. Yeah. I know how to work hard, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Point me in the right direction and show me what to do. No, I think that I'm sure we'll talk about it, but just the benefits of being outside and just the land available that you guys have out here, and there's so much things in the future and so many projects, and the cool thing about you is that you get to come in and see, and you're like, hey, I remember when we were talking about this idea from around the table, and now it's however many years down the line we have this building or we have this activity or whatever it is, and this place is growing. So that's a real neat part about being here, and I think most people who come to a spot like this that has so much growth available to it tend to stay here for a really long time.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. So right now we have 14 families who reside on the ranch. And so they're 2-parent households. And then on the ranch, we have on any given day, we have about 96 youth that live here. And our families are blended families. So what does that mean? So that's going to be, there's biological kids here, there are adopted children here, and there are foster kids here. And every child, doesn't matter where you fit in on that, every child gets to experience the same things here. Oftentimes when kids come into care, they feel very isolated and they feel looked at, judged. So when they come to this ranch, everybody, when I say they look the same, everybody has had kind of an experience of foster care. And so they don't have to necessarily identify themselves, but they can identify. And so I think it makes it a lot easier for them to be able to just to begin to relax and then start working on their healing, which is so very important. That's what we do here.
Yeah. So are there many places like this around the state and around the country that you kind of model off as well? So
Pepper's Ranch was, I don't want to say the original in Oklahoma because I don't have my facts, but we were one of the first. When we were originally designed, we were a group home for boys. And our founder, Hal French, he lives in Edmond, who's doing amazing things there as well still. As he developed this idea of living for children in care, a few things were discovered that were unknown at the time. So, for example, we had house parents, and they were paid, and they rotated in and out. Well, unknown to us, we were helping create attachment disorders. And then, because this was a boys' ranch, siblings were separated. And so he says, you know what, we can do better. And he began to look at models outside of the state and came back with the board of directors. They pitched it and redeveloped it, and then Pepper's Ranch was born. So there are some other communities that are also like us, that do wonderful things. I think our community, the reason it's a little bit different is the acreage that we have. So there's a beautiful community I think it's Luther. They have about 8 homes, and so it's a little bit tighter. And then there's some housing that's available with another agency partner, so that's just individual houses throughout the community versus a support system like what we offer. So there's different. You can find what works best for you. Most of our families, to speak to what you said just a little bit ago, families who live outside the ranch that have to foster on their own usually are able to foster for about 2 years before they close their home. Fostering is challenging. It has a lot of challenges that come with it. And so if you don't have the right supports for yourself and for the children that you're serving, you get tired, you get burned out, you get frustrated, and you just say, I'm done. And so they close their doors, which is a hardship for the state because we have so many kids in care that need family-like settings. Well, here at the ranch, because we can provide those resources, our families, on the average, will live here at the ranch for 6 years. We have some that have been on the campus for 13. And so it really just depends on where they are, what they need. And so, again, they can adopt their children and continue to reside here. And because once adoption happens, trauma doesn't end. Often trauma comes after adoption. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting those youth through adulthood to give them whatever they need so that they are productive and independent adults. That's what we're looking to do.
Yeah. So parents and kind of the houses that you guys have out here, how does that whole process work? How does someone, I guess, apply to get a house here? And like, you know, there might be someone listening that thinks, I might be able to do that. Yeah.
Right. So first of all, you go to our website, peppersranch.com. You'll read through it, read about us, see if it's something that interests you. And then there's a button on this that says, apply. And then I'll call you and we kind of work through things. There are some main things that you have to be able to do. So the first thing is you have to be certified for 2 years. We're looking for longevity with our families. We don't want to set you up to fail. So 2 years is what we're looking for. We want to make sure that you have the capacity to then house a minimum of 4 kids. That's a lot 4 kids is a lot. And oftentimes our families are already going to come to the ranch with their own biological kids and sometimes their own children. So oftentimes they'll come and they'll say, I've got 2 that are biologically related to me. I've adopted one and we're fostering one. So they're going to come to the ranch with 4. That one that they're fostering counts as their 4. So they have to add 3 more. So that begins to be a big household pretty quickly. So we want to make sure that they understand that. And so we're going to talk to DHS. We're going to talk to their foster care worker to ensure, again, we want to set them up for success. So we want to talk to them to see if they have those capacities to serve large sibling groups. Sibling groups is our passion. We want to try to keep kids connected. Siblings come in care. Oftentimes homes don't have space for 4 youth. And so 2 have to go here and 2 have to go here. And it's a hardship. Your sibling relationship is the longest relationship you're going to have in your life. And so it's so important to keep these kids connected. And that's what we can do here. Our homes are about 3,200 square feet. There are 4 bedrooms total. Each bedroom basically is like a master suite. Each bedroom comes with their own bathroom, walk-in closets. And so they're adequate to put 4 kids very easily in each room. So size is not an issue. And again, there's lot of room, 240 acres to romp and stomp in. We have 4 ponds. Again, we have an equine program, and just a community swimming pool, so that kids can just let loose and have a good time.
Seems like a great place to grow up.
It's pretty good. Well, and as you drive through the community, you'll see bike racks. Our bike racks are full of bikes because the kids are riding, safely through the neighborhood. It's really, really nice.
And I'm sure there's a lot that goes into just designing the home specifically and how that's evolved over the years too, right? And just saying, I'll just design a normal, quote, normal house, right? And you think, no, actually, like it's more of, like what you're describing, right? There's kind of 4 master suites and then you probably have like a kitchen and a common area in the middle. It's much more communal than it is a quote normal house setting.
Well, Mike, you hit it right on the head. So every time that we build, we come to our families and we go, what works in your house and what doesn't work? It's really because we don't live here, So what's going to work? What's going to make it the easiest for you? And so every build, there's something new. So for example, when we first broke ground on our very first homes, no one had conversion vans, those 15 passenger vans. Everybody had minivans. Okay, so your minivans fit in the garage. Well, now everybody has these 15 passenger tall things. They don't fit in our first builds. So we adjusted. So our later homes now, those fit in there. We just broke ground last October on 4 new homes. We went to our families again and say, what works for you? What they asked for was some more designated flex space. So for example, all of our homes have an office nook, but thank you, COVID, we've decided that we actually need space for kids to learn or for an adult to have their office. So now these new homes have office rooms where doors are connected. We also have a designated dining room space. So those are some of the enhancements that we've made on the new homes.
Yeah, it's like having a small classroom, right?
Right.
Your kids are learning.
Our families, our youth go to Guthrie Public Schools, and then our families, like anywhere, have the opportunity to design education for each child in their home. So we have 19 children on our campus who homeschool. And there are different methods of what homeschool look like. But here in Guthrie, we have eSchool, and their providers will come to our ranch twice a week to provide in-person learning for those students. And so we provide a space for that. And so, it's nice to be able to have space for kids to get out of their home and be able to have these learning experiences. Yeah.
So how does everything, how is everything funded, right? I mean, you got to build these houses and then put all this stuff put together. Does each parent, do they pay rent? Is it like a normal rent house? How does that work?
So Pepper's Ranch, we are not an agency partner. Mm-hmm. So for those who understand what that means, I don't want to go too far into that, but we're not an agency partner. We are a lease tenant. That's the relationship we have, and then we provide these supports. And so parents do pay rent. The rent is very minimal. It's $250 a month.
Wow.
Wow, it's $250 a month, and it's because we don't want our families, like, we just don't want them to worry about that. What their job is to focus on these youth, to give them all the supports. We do require that one parent work. Most of our parents, both of them, will work. So that's kind of what that looks like. You asked me.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes so much stress off, right? Like the parents too.
Absolutely.
Like that's kind of what I was thinking. With like, this is all well and good, but like, someone's got to pay for it somehow.
That's right.
Somewhere, right? And you have bills and everything, and it's really cool that you're just building a neighborhood, really.
Absolutely.
And a neighborhood specifically for foster care and just kind of all centered around the kids, and like you said, it's not just finding parents, it's education, it's trauma, it's everything.
Absolutely.
That's here, and that all stuff takes money, time, and resources, and it's just amazing that this place exists.
Well, when you talked about how do we find our funding, we are very blessed to have amazing donors out there. We always need more help, so if people get inspired by what we do or just what I'm saying today, I encourage you to go to our website, become a monthly donor, sponsor events that we're going to be doing. That's how we're able to make this work. We also apply for grants. We are not state funded, and we don't receive financial support either. So donations, that's what keeps us going.
Yeah, and for everyone who knows the podcast and knows the agriculture world, that side of thing isn't cheap either.
That's right. So, absolutely.
You have two neighborhoods, neighborhoods to deal with, and also the quote farming side of things, which never stops as well. So, but it's fun to have the kids and to teach them so many life lessons in the neighborhood that you have out here. Thank
you. And when people think about Pepper's Ranch, I think that it's one of those things that you really have to come to the ranch. I encourage, again, there's on our website, you can sign up to come for a tour. I encourage you to come, because the moment you cross our cattle gates, there's something that changes. I can't explain it to you, but something changes when you roll over those cattle gates to come onto this property. There's a spirit, there's energy. It's just different. So come tour the ranch, see what we're about. We really are a community. So when you think about, obviously we're not as large as Oak Tree, but like, it looks like a community, a neighborhood community that is gated. That's what this looks like. It's what it feels like. But it's, as you talked about, Mike, earlier, it's a therapeutic world for these kids.
Yeah. How do you go about, how do the kids go about getting here? Like, what's that process?
So the state of Oklahoma, they're the ones who oversee youth in care. And so each family has a foster care worker, and the families get to when they're getting approved to be families, they get to have specs on what they can accept in their home and what they can't. So for me, I'll just talk about myself. So my age range is 0 to 12. I can accept male and female. There are some behaviors that I will accept. There are some behaviors that I won't. There are some medical concerns that I will accept, and there are some medical concerns I won't. Once that gets done, they populate me, if you will, and they try to match me to those youth that are in care. And then that worker will call and say, "Hey, Malia, I have this youth that needs a bed tonight. Do you think they might work for you?" And I might say, "Tell me a little bit more about them." And then they'll break it down for me. And then I can say yes or no. So that's how kids get placed here.
Yeah. So dive into kind of just every day what you guys do here, and obviously the parents. There's a lot of parents taking care of kids, and you have houses, and your future is to build houses, but you have so much land here and so many plans. Mm-hmm. Dive into that. We have plenty of time if you want to share, like the future and on what you're working on a daily basis and what you're growing towards as well.
Well, a few things. So help me stay on track. So summertime is super busy here for us because our youth are here full time. Mm-hmm. And so our summer programs are full. And so one of my roles is I talk to the families, I talk to the youth to see what gaps are we missing, because there might be something missing. So, for example, my family's told me, "Hey, a long time ago, we used to have like a martial arts. It'd be really nice to have that again because the interest died, and so the program went away." Great. Let me connect with partners. So again, when you talk about, well, how does this place run? We have amazing partnerships in the community. And so we've got this great partnership with our martial arts Give It Up, and they come and they volunteer their time once a week here on this campus. Same with our art director and our music instructor. They volunteer their time. And so that's really important. How this place operates, volunteerism. So we have wonderful partnerships where churches come, businesses come. Oftentimes businesses have where they have that give it back a day or give it back a week or whatever, and they choose different organizations. Choose us. There's so much fun that can be had out here. We have groups that come out and clean a flower bed, and then they'll do a barbecue with moon bounces for the family afterwards so they can connect. There's just anything you can dream of, we can do that here. But in regards to what does the future look like for Peppers? When the branch was originally built, I'm not for sure how many houses Mr. French thought we would have. Again, today we have 15, and so what started off as very small, we are now considered a township. And with townships, things change, so our infrastructure has to be redesigned. That's very expensive. So we are working with the county, Logan County, to work on our fresh water being repiped, wastewater. So we're on a lagoon system. So our our lagoon has to grow, and we have to redesign that. We have to put in fire extinguishers. Our roads have to be redone. That's a $2.6 million project at the end of the day. And so we need help with that. We are very fortunate. We've had wonderful donors who help us help with our endowment. So we've got a beautiful endowment, but with all savings accounts, that's what it is. It's a savings account. We hope we don't have to touch that, because we hope we have donors that understand the beauty that's happening on this ranch that say, I want to help. It's not very sexy to say, I want to help build your lagoon, right? It's not very sexy. Putting up a house is a lot better. Yeah. But the more houses that we have, we need the lagoon. And so it's wherever you think that you can tie into us, that's what we ask. Because we cannot do it without the help of Oklahomans. And I'll tell you this, it's not even Oklahomans. We have donors in other states, Colorado, California. We have a generous donor in California who they come here at least once a year to connect with us, but they believe in what we do here. And so they've never even lived in Oklahoma, but they believe in us. And so if it doesn't matter if you live in Oklahoma, you can be in Washington State. If you hear this and I bring some passion into you, look us up, call me, come tour. That's what we're here for.
How do you go about building those relationships? Like you said, the good thing about, you have people coming in from California and all over the country to support this. And how do you utilize what you have to get the word out? And like I said, it's not sexy to ask for money, especially for a new lagoon or a road or whatever it is. But, it's all important. And you've got to, sadly, not sadly, but money makes the world go round.
That's right.
And the more money that we have here, the more lives you can change and the more you can do, right? So how do you go about, you guys as a team getting the word out and having, Peppers Ranch be in the front of so many more people?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Number one, our families are our biggest advocates. They talk about us. And then our partners. So, for example, the Oklahoma Beef Council, they have been generous to us 2 times now. Last year, we did an amazing event called Steak and Grape, and we will be hosting it again together this September on the 15th. And what that looks like, the Oklahoma Beef Council is going to partner with Peppers Ranch, and they are going to host a phenomenal dinner. It's going to have a 4-course meal where steaks are paired with robust wines. We will have a live auction. This year's theme is the Roaring 20s. So come in your greatest Gatsby get up and just enjoy a night of laughter, fellowship, great wines, amazing food, and your contributions to that night pour back into the ranch. So our partnerships also help find new connections. When those volunteer groups come out, that's another connection. So it's really just meeting people, and then sharing our message.
Yeah, it's that sounds like an awesome event.
Come see us; it's amazing.
Right? Shout out to Oklahoma Beef Council.
That's right. Phenomenal. What's for dinner tonight? Beef.
Yes.
Beef is what's for dinner. That's
sure.
right.
Although Tony Romo doing the ads, we need to get someone better than Tony Romo to do the ads. An Oklahoman for sure.
There you go.
I'm only joking. Yeah, it's incredible to do stuff like that, right? Connect with local people and not just, people outside the state, but, you start where everything's important. You start where home is, right?
Start where home is.
And if people, I'm sure you've seen this, the connection to people who can drive here and be here and come and see, all they've got to do is see it. And
that's right.
That's like,
and they're going to tell someone
else. The sales closed at that point, right? It's just, hey, how do I get involved and how do I be out here, and how, even if you just volunteer your time, or you're with a business and they want to come out and teach the kids something, like that's all valuable.
Well, we are a small but mighty ranch. So again, we have 240 acres and we're a team of 7. So we're a very small team. And so when you talk about volunteerism, that's huge. We have a maintenance team of 2. So what does that mean? So of the 240 acres, our families are responsible to mow their front and backyard. The team does everything. Our maintenance team of 2 does everything else. If something breaks on the house, they call us. Our team will troubleshoot it. If we can't fix it, then we call in our experts that we're partnered with. So again, if you have a roofing company, if you have a plumbing company, if you have an electrical company and you want to partner with us, that's amazing. That's what we would look for. Again, the repairs on the homes are not up to the families to take care of. That's for us, and we're happy to do that for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's the service that they are providing is huge, right?
It is.
It's obviously you value that incredibly, and to make their life so much easier and not have them worry about, whatever it is, taking care of a house or rent payment, and like you said, little things like having a garage big enough to fit, 15 passenger
That's
van.
right.
You didn't think of those things. Like I wouldn't think of that,
right.
But it all makes sense. And building custom houses for that need, just every little helps, right? And everything
Absolutely.
just takes stress off.
And again, going back to our programs that we offer, when I talk about families don't have to compromise youth. So for example, you could have someone who says, I want to do dance. And then you have someone who says, I want to do the equine program, and someone else in your house says, well, I want to do cooking classes. I now, as a parent living here, can say, you can do all of that. You all can take your bikes and go to the programs. I'm going to stay here, whether it's that I'm cooking dinner tonight or I'm working with this one with their education. I can stay here at home, keeping this going. You all get to do what you need. You come back home, and then we can still have our times together. It's just, again, we're in Guthrie, so it's 30 minutes into town and back. So there's 1 hour, and then if you have a counseling session, there's an hour. So 2 hours of your day, you just earned back being here at the ranch, which is I need all the time I can have. There are 4 in my home, and I need every moment of the day to make it be as productive as possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot also that goes to be said about just a safe environment too, right? You talk about riding your bike. Like my day job is real estate, and I tell every single buyer when we go tour homes that if you see bikes in yards and you see kids riding around,
that's a good thing.
That's a great thing,
That's
right?
a great thing.
Maybe if you're older and you don't like kids as much as you used to, it's still
then don't look for those bikes.
We miss that. I grew up in the 90s, right? Like I'm 32 years old. My mom would tell me to come home when the street lights came on and got dark.
That's right. You can't do that today, hardly today.
No, and it's sadly, right? We can't do that as much as we used to, but it's,
you can do that here.
So many you can.
You can do that here.
You can be a real kid.
Yeah.
And not be stuck inside playing video games, watching YouTube or whatever.
They like that.
Although there is value in that now that
they do
there's
enjoy
scholarships.
that.
People get scholarships for all that stuff now. But yeah, I mean, just going outside and getting your knees dirty and just kind of having a good time and rolling around, like playing football or whatever it is.
Well, and again, this is a community, and so your siblings may not enjoy fishing, right? But the neighbors next door and the ones across the street, they do, and so you just go, hey, let's go down, and so you can fish, or this one enjoys, again, going to Girl Scouts or going to Boy Scouts, and everybody else doesn't. You get to connect on so many different levels, and isn't that what we have to do in society, is connect with others? And so when you talk about the value that these kids and the families are getting here, you couldn't put a price tag on it. There's just no way to put a price tag on it. It's just amazing. Yeah. It's just amazing.
You mentioned earlier that some families have been here for 13 plus. Some, you said 19 years, I think, is what
13.
13 was the one.
Yeah.
So do those kids just kind of, what happens? Do they go to college? Like, how does that process work? Because I think that's a lot of people's questions that aren't aware of foster families, right? They're like, what happens when they get to a certain age? And there's so many questions around that. So how does that work?
What will happen is, youth in care, if they don't find permanency, which means if they don't get adopted or go home, then they would what we call age out of the system. That's something that doesn't happen here on the campus, because usually our families who are fostering, if the goal is always to go home. I want to say that out loud. I can't say that enough. Kids need to be with their families. But when families are not safe and that's no longer the option, our foster families have already had them in their home for so long, they're family. And so these families will then adopt the children. Now, you ask, well, what happens when they turn 18? And well, what happened in your home, right? You go off to college, or you go to a VOTEC, or maybe you don't go anywhere and you have a gap year. That's okay. You can have your gap year here. We do want you working. Like, you just can't be this couch potato, right? Because again, we hoped that we put enough resources in your life that we gave you some confidence, we gave you some skills to make you want to be productive. And so college and VOTECs aren't for everybody. So you may say, you know what, I just want to leave and I just want to start working full time wherever. That's great. Stay here and do that. You can do that. And then when you're ready to fly, you fly, and that's what we hope happens. To speak about the family who has been on the campus for 13 years, one of the things about Peppers, again, there's so many special things about us. We have a grandparent program. So on our campus, we have 3 full-time grandparents. They reside here at the ranch. Again, we're trying to show kids what a nuclear family looks like, and grandparents are so important. It's so important because what their skills were have to be given back to us as youth. So how do you make bread? It's not just, listen, I just want to go to the store and buy the bread too. But having that grandparent show me how to make bread, having that grandparent show me how to be in a garden, having a parent, even just, if you've got an older one that came from famine, right, that shows you how to save, like, those are all so important. And so our kids get to have those experiences because we have this grandparent program. Well, one of our families, the Blankenships, they had resided on our campus for 13 years, and they decided that their journey to foster was over, but they didn't want to stop giving back to kids in care. And so they moved over into our grandparent program. So they are now a grandparent here on the campus, which is phenomenal. And so if that's something that appeals to you, go to our website, fill out an application, and join us full time. If you don't want to join us full time on the ranch, that's okay. You can still be a grandparent and still pour in. So whatever your talents and whatever your time might look like, we can find something for you here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Talking about kind of the future, and like I said, having those programs and, hey, there is a timeline and there's a plan put in place if you want to kind of go into that area. What's the 30,000 foot view? What's kind of like the 20-year plan? Like, well, you got so much land out here that you can really do pretty much, as long as you have the infrastructure, you can do a lot of things. So
absolutely.
What are you guys working towards?
About every 3 to 4 years, we build new homes. Mm-hmm. So that's always going to be part of our journey. But we are piloting a young adult apartment, transitional living. And so that's what we're piloting it this August. We're going to start that this August, where we're going to have one youth he's 20. He has a full-time job. He still lives here at the ranch in his family's home. He's going to get to move over and be in his own residence where he can have independence. But I don't know if you remember being 20, but sometimes you make stupid mistakes, right? Yeah, you make stupid mistakes.
That's what being 20 is all about, right?
And so isn't that nice that you can have that independence, but still have your family close enough that if there's something that they need to come underneath and lift you back up, that they're there. And so that's what we're working on. The 30-year view would be potentially in, developing. So we have 80 acres that are across the street from us that's undeveloped, and so potentially putting tiny homes out there for youth is something that we've considered doing. And so again, we're piloting this to see how well and how responsive our youth are here, to see if it's a good fit for us.
Yeah. I didn't ask this year, I probably should have, but where does the name Pepper's Ranch come from? And tell me a little bit about the founder as well.
Absolutely. So Mr. French, Hal French, he's from Edmond, and he actually grew up close to the Edmond Boys Town, which is where his passion to serve, I won't say got started, but continued to get watered, if you will. And he owns a lot of the land out here. The Peppers, Marlene and Charles Peppers, owned this property, and they were getting ready to sell. And so he approached them and said, "Hey, this is what I'm considering doing. Would you consider selling to me?" And they loved the idea. And he's a very humble man. And so he didn't want his name put on it. And so he honored them by putting it as Peppers. And so that's how the name Pepper's Ranch was given.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many stories around names, and my mother-in-law's dog was called Pepper, and also my nephew calls, when he gets Dr. Pepper, he says "my Peppers." So there's so many, and it's really funny. And I think my brother-in-law's tricked him now by putting water and a little bit of Dr. Pepper in it. And he has no idea. That's
right. Water that down.
You know, you parents out there listening, you know all the tricks, because he's how old is he now? He's 5 years old. So
water down the drinks.
He does not need to be drinking a full can of Dr. Pepper.
But he feels like he is.
But he feels like a superhero after he has it.
That's right. So Mr. French, he is still vested. Right now, he is working on a project in Edmond, Uncommon Ground. He's trying to get that off the ground with the city of Edmond. So he's just amazing with how, when you talk about that 300 view, like he sees it, and then he just knows how to make it come together. So we're so thankful for him and his support that he's always given to Peppers. So
that's really
and
neat.
we have a beautiful board that pours into us monthly. So if you want to join our team that way, I mean, there's just so many ways that you guys that Oklahomans can get connected.
Yeah, talk about the board a little bit, because they might, like I said, if there is someone listening out there that is finding something to give back, and they may have aged out of another board and all gone, the whatever board terms that they're on, because that's one thing that people love to be on, is give back and be on boards, and it's, if ranching or foster care or whatever it is that's close to you, then this seems, you always find something that you love to do and have a personal connection with, you want to give back to. So what's that process like?
Well, so that process would look like, first of all, we would hope that you have a heart for youth and care. And then whatever your talent looks like after that would be great. If I were going to put like what we would want in a hat and pull it out, I would love to see someone on our board that has like a medical background, trauma specific. Whether that's a counselor, whether that is a doctor, that would be amazing, because we don't have that right now. And then you can speak into, as we continue to develop, you can speak into that. But right now we have bankers on our board. We have architects. We actually have a family who used to live here. They've moved off the campus, and so they're part of the board. So our board is very diverse, female and male, all ages. So, we will take you. If you have to start with a passion. That's all it is. You have to have a passion. And once you have a passion, the sky is the limit. And so that's what we're looking for, people who have passion.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Malia, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, sharing what you love to do, sharing your passion, sharing your day job. For people listening, remind us of the website and how they can get involved.
Absolutely. peppersranch.com is how you can find us. Go there, check us out. There's many buttons to click, and call me. Give me a call. And I love touring families, individuals, businesses. Again, once you come over those cattle guards, it changes your spirit, and you will want to pour in to Pepper's Ranch.
Yeah.
I know it.
And Steak and Grape is September
the 15th.
Great.
Absolutely. Grab your tickets. It's going to be a phenomenal night.
All right. I will find the link for that, and we'll put that in the description if you want to do that and check that out. But thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for just everything you do. It's really cool to hear your personal story and how everything ties in. And obviously, after 45 minutes, it makes sense.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, listeners.
Yeah. So people listening, I'll put the link to Steak and Grape in the description, which also will link to the website, and go check it out. And if you're someone out there who wants to give back and wants to get involved, that has a background in therapy, trauma, or medical background, there's a spot for you on the board.
That's right.
So come
Thank
on
you,
down.
Mike. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you so much. People listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Next episode. Bye.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us on August 11th at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum for a celebration of hope featuring guest speaker Tim Tebow and musical artist Ben Fuller. Find out more and get your tickets at HIA10.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's beef farmers and ranchers, we want to remind you that beef can be part of a heart-healthy diet. To find heart-healthy beef recipes, go to oklabeef.org/recipes. Link below.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.